D23, Destination D23 to be precise, is occurring this month at the end of August. I believe August 29th through the 31st. And this has been met with much anticipation. In fact, let me go ahead and share my screen and show you how much anticipation there is for this. You can see, sold out! And Destination D23 is kind of described as an in-between event because, well, usually people are really excited about the event in Anaheim that occurs every 2 years, and that is the D23 Expo, or as it's now called, what? D23, the Ultimate Fan Event, I think is what it's called. I just keep changing the name on us. But Destination D23 is an event that has historically taken place on the other year and on Walt Disney World property. And it usually showcases not maybe announcements of new attractions or new experiences, new expansions, but more like provides details on what has already been announced in other forums, and perhaps you do get the occasional announcement. But well, it's always historically included a big parks panel, especially on the precipice of a $60 billion turbocharge culture. And you can see right here, I'm gonna poke fun at Drew just a little bit. No, that's only because he poked fun at himself. We do love Drew the Disney Dude, but you can see right here the future of Disney parks and more was revealed 1 year ago today at the D23 Ultimate Fan Event. I'm ready to learn more about these products later this month at Destination D23. And you can see right here, August 10th, 2025 is when he made this post. And I love the video that he included right here because it's got Josh Giamaro on there. And, you know, you've got all the pop and circumstance of the parks panel that occurred at D23, the Ultimate Fan Event. John Stamos is up there. Oh, it's great. Look at that. And they got Bruce Vaughn, and they're going through all the stuff. And it's fantastic. It's awesome. In fact, this was met with so much anticipation for Destination D23 that, look at this. Drew came out with a 30-minute video deep dive of what he predicts. And it's, you know, the future of Disney parks. And that is fantastic. That is great. And then, culture. Well, we learned what the actual roster or schedule will be for Destination D23. And you can see right here, okay, so we've got Disney Around the Globe, India. It's something. They include the lunch break in here. Okay. Disney Around the Globe, France. All right. The 2K Animated Classics. Good. Fantastic. You know what's missing here, culture?
Anything good?
Well, that's a very subjective culture, but I mean, yes, for sure. There's one major omission for Destination D23 2025, and that is Disney will hold no major theme park panel at Destination D23 2025. This by Marvin Montanaro, August 13th, 2025. In a move that has left fans and industry watchers scratching their heads, Disney has unveiled the full panel schedule for its 2025 Destination D23 event, and there is a glaring omission: no dedicated presentation on theme park developments. The decision comes just months after Universal Orlando Resort's highly anticipated Epic Universe theme park opened its gates on May 22nd, 2025, ushering in a new era of immersive attractions that have drawn massive crowds and rave reviews. With Disney's biggest competitor flexing its creative muscles, the absence of a parks-focused panel at what is typically a showcase for future vision raises questions about the company's current pipeline and confidence in countering the competition. Destination D23 is set to run from August 29th through the 31st of 2025 at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort in Walt Disney World is positioned as a journey around the worlds of Disney. Unlike the larger biennial D23 Expo, which often features blockbuster announcements, Destination D23 is described as a, quote, off-year event emphasizing Disney's history, global reach, and niche storytelling rather than groundbreaking news. And this year's lineup leans heavily into that theme, with panels celebrating animated classics, Broadway productions, and internal Disney endeavors. However, there is no Disney Experiences Showcase, a staple for unveiling park expansions, new rides, and technological innovations, and stands out as a deliberate pivot away from the high-stakes reveal format at a time in which many believe Disney needs to make a definitive statement, particularly in Orlando, where the event is taking place. Culture. Your thoughts on them not hosting a parks panel when supposedly they're dumping $60 billion in the parks over a 10-year plan?
Typical. I mean, look, it's hard to maintain a lie if you have to like talk about it, you know, and what their lie is going to be. consisting of. Look, and again, that's my opinion that they're not representing the truth very well when they're essentially just basically spending a typical parks budget, and that at best, they don't even account for a lot of the park stuff that they're doing for refurbishments and everything else. So it's starting to look like just you're getting a $60 billion worth of refurbishments, and they're across all the parks. It's not specifically in Marca. So, this is always just an enormous fiction. And, you if you don't have to do a parks panel, you don't have to keep, trying to keep up this fiction. In my opinion, I could be wrong. Maybe there's something I don't know about all of the great walls that are going up in Frontierland and this massive Avatar land that basically they're tearing down like Catella Boulevard for or something, which isn't happening, by the way. That's a joke. But I don't know. Vash, enlighten me. Am I wrong? Are there just so many things to talk about in the parks that I'm ignorant to them?
I say it's very illuminating that you talk about, and even on earnings calls and people in the press, the Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, all these different publications and media outlets are talking about 60 billion turbocharging parks, all this kind of stuff. And then when we last heard the earnings call culture, that was going to be the Q3 fiscal year 2025 earnings call, they barely even talked about the parks. They barely even mentioned them. They mentioned cruise line far more than they ever talked about the actual parks themselves, and that's because the domestic figures just haven't looked that good. But go ahead, Culture.
No, you're right, and that's you were getting to it. I was just going to say it's the only thing they have that is 100% positive. And they didn't have one of the water slides on their cruise ship fall apart and slice a guest open, so that's a good thing.
Well, it's actually a very good thing, I would say. Now, some people not pleased, obviously, that there's no parks panel this year. We have Wallen Ballin right here. In the wake of Epic Universe grand opening, Disney reveals that there's no parks panel lined up for D23 with some blushy faces there. Got the event map. Scott Houston, very much appreciate that. And then,
I only went for Legends and the specialty panels, like if Don Hahn was presenting specifically, or Merit, right? If Merit was doing something, when the Jungle Cruise guys get involved during the panels, then those are always good to attend. Mm-hmm. But the real reason I went was for the parks panel, because they were always dropping like little tidbits that you wouldn't get at the expo. Right. And so it's just, again, I used to go to these events religiously. Every year I was on one coast or the other. I was spending enormous amounts of money to be informed, or what I thought was informed, on top of the people that you meet and talk to and develop relationships with and you see year after year. But the parks panel was really one of the key reasons to go. So, I don't know that I would feel any incentive to go to this. I mean, and I would rather go to the little dirt track where they're testing out these quadro cycle things that they're going to try to sell you as an attraction at Disney. Be cheaper.
Oh man, this is really kind of disappointing, I would say, for people who have already. And this is kind of who I feel for the most. People have already booked maybe a trip out to Walt Disney World or to Central Florida itself.
You have to.
Bought tickets in advance.
You have
right? I gotta do all that, and we just saw it. Just was sold out. This event right here. So definitely people were very interested. And I'm sure a lot of those people were interested in parks specifically. You do all this kind of stuff, and then you're not going to have a panel at all. I mean, this is crazy. Go ahead, Culture. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because you cut out for a minute there. I was just going to say that this is an event where you do have to plan well in advance. You have to have secure. If you want to stay anywhere near the convention center, which in this case in Florida, it's always at the Contemporary. So you have to, if you're going to stay there, you either have to stay in the main hotel or you have to stay next door at Bay Lake Tower, and that's a little bit more pricey. So this is something you plan months in advance. Like this is maybe a 7-month plan. Like as soon as this is announced, you go and you try to get accommodations. If you want to participate in special events, and I'm sure you can speak to that as well, Vash, but you have to get those booked early because they sell out rather quickly. And if you're competing with people like my parents, you're not getting in because all those people are crazy, and They are. They get the Emperor's Pass or the Sorcerer's Pass is what it's called. I was just being funny, but they get the Sorcerer's Pass and they destroy you, and you're like, come on, like so they don't have to wait in line. They get like guaranteed seats and all kinds of stuff, and you're like, I don't have $11 billion to do this, so.
I think it is revealing to me that even though they're talking about $60 billion and they're talking about turbocharging, they're talking about, and we're seeing what Monsters Inc. go in, we're seeing Rivers of America drained, all that stuff. We're seeing all this quote unquote progress, but we haven't seen anything substantive in terms of details or really what we're getting right there. Now, some people might say, well, that's a strategy that Universal's employed, and I do agree that has been something that they've done, and you don't build up expectations that aren't realized. That's the benefit there. At the same time, though, for Disney not to do this specific parks panel at this specific event right here, to me, it reveals more about they don't really have anything to show. I mean, they did like a whole what if panel culture back in 2022's D23 Expo right there, because they really didn't have anything to show. They still, had they still hosted our parks panel. I remember going to the 2013 parks panel at the D23 Expo, and it was absolutely awful. But they still had one. Here, they're not even bothering with the facade of hosting a panel and showing nothing. They're just not doing it at all. Very revealing.
No, I'm with you. I mean, they don't have they can't even bother to pretend that they have things that are intriguing. I mean, they can certainly talk about the Dora coaster and stuff like that, but that's years away. In fact, everything that they could talk about is 1,000 years away, whether it be Villains Land or, for how long they're going to keep the parks looking like they're absolutely destroyed, like Frontierland literally will look like a set from the video game Fallout for the better part of like 3-4 years, if not more. And that's the other problem. You cannot hold Disney to any timeline. So, and they get a lot of guff for that. So perhaps that's some of it, and the last thing they announced was this piece of garbage on the screen, Tiana's bologna sausage. Nobody wanted this.
That's the last attraction that they've not only announced but opened. And as we say all the time, culture, it's like, if you're excited about this new slate of attractions, just remember the most recent past of history of attractions that we've received. And
I was really impressed with Fred's pole barn that they put up next to the Haunted Mansion. So, I mean, was that an attraction?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's an attraction, but hey, you mentioned Fallout culture, and if people want to actually see Fallout, guess what? It's going to be opening this year at Halloween Horror Nights.
Ooh.
With the other guys there. So I don't know if you really want to get excited for theme park announcements or theme park additions. Hey, the other guys are doing a bang up job even without
the haunts are gonna the haunts are gonna be extraordinary, guys.
Oh yes.
See, we so much don't care that they're not doing anything for the D23 event that we're talking about across the street down the road. We're talking about Universal's Halloween Horror Nights. I'm very excited.
I'm very excited as well. But let me go ahead and show you something I forgot to include, because I was going to come back around to this. You can see Drew right here. He had that 30-minute video on what he anticipated for the parks panel. But now that he had learned that there's no parks panel to be had, well, he was a little bit disappointed. So, it's these things happen, and I like Drew. Don't get me wrong. I like Drew a lot. But to hinge the hopes on people, on creatives, on a Disney company that no longer embodies the qualities that we grew up loving from it, well, it's a fool's errand, unfortunately. Not to say that Drew's a fool, not at all, but it's just don't hinge your expectations on this company.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media account.